So real quick, just an agenda for today. We're going to talk about opportunities in material diversion and reuse. I'll cover that section and then turn it over to the rest of our panel and talk about the ordinance and specificity. We'll take a quick break. Then we'll turn it over to the folks from Green Halo Software. Green Halo is actually going to call in and have an opportunity to hear about a tool, a resource that has been developed for contractors and municipalities around material management, data tracking, etc. We'll talk about meeting the 5% target and look at some case studies both in C&D diversion as well as reuse facilities. And then we'll talk about new market opportunities that we're seeing in the contractor community. And then we'll do a quick dialogue at the end. If you don't mind, just for the sake of time, if you have any like pressing questions, just jot them down, and then at that dialogue period, we'll be happy to interact and answer those accordingly. So framing the discussion, today's waste industry and opportunities around material diversion. I want to kind of unpack what material diversion really is and what it looks like. I'll talk about some market and economic opportunities, and then kind of give a snapshot of what today's Cook County building stock and specifically housing stock looks like. And then take a look at some example diversion ordinances before we introduce Cook County's. So I'll start here with an image of just a typical vacant unit. I know that many of the municipalities, communities throughout the city and county all take a different shape and have a different look in terms of what a vacant unit looks like in terms of size, magnitude, etc. But this is just a really it's just a snapshot of kind of the worst scenario that you'll see. And beyond the fact that this is an unoccupied unit, I really want to just use this photo to draw on the potential that we see in building stock. I want to point out the embodied energy that's available and the materials that are still remaining, the brick, the lumber, the appliances that may be inside, the windows, the doors. Not only does that embodied energy have reuse value and the opportunity to be reused elsewhere, but it also represents a new market opportunity through recycling, upcycling, and new opportunities in new market areas. So keep that in mind as we kind of move forward. I'll point out a couple of terms here, but I want to just draw your reference to the worksheets that you were handed. A lot of our sustainability conversation, it includes a lot of words and a lot of phrases that are sometimes used interchangeably, and sometimes those are incorrect. So again, construction and demolition, C&D debris, deconstruction, demolition, diversion, which includes many different forms of demolition, recycling, etc. These are all terms that are, again, often used interchangeably. So feel free to reference the worksheet if you have any questions on a use of a term that comes up, or feel free to ask us, and we'll kind of explain it in the context of what we're speaking. So I'll start here with an interesting sort of image of a home and trees, and the figures represent 250,000 homes, according to 2009 EPA data, are demolished each year. And of those homes, 1.5 million trees in the form of the board lumber that is in those homes is lost. And again, when we talk about the embodied energy, we're talking about natural resources. Is not exclusive to board lumber, but I'll point that out just because natural resources aren't manufactured. These are natural resources that are here, and when that material is used and a home is demolished, then we actually sort of lose the value in it. This next image really is a closer look, and it sort of correlates to the state of our landfills. According to data, around 40% of our landfills are comprised with C&D material. And of that 40%, we see kind of the breakdown here that 28% of that 40% is coming from the demolitions, 15% from new construction, and 57% from renovation. So I wanted to show this image just to sort of bring to light that we're not specifically looking at demolitions when we talk about the landfill conditions and the fact that they're not involved, but the C&D material that comprise the landfills are not exclusive to demolitions. They're actually inclusive of the entire building loop. The building industry in itself has been inherently flawed for a number of generations. Again, we use natural resources, we build, and the standard practice has been to dispose once we're done. And we encourage new materials when we build new, but at the same time, once that material goes into a landfill, it really, the value of it is lost. And so I just point that out because we're talking about a system that at this point really should be looking to pivot and redesign itself in a way that one, takes us a step back, two, is not as reliant on landfills, and three, maximizes other opportunities and new market opportunities as they come up. And why is this important? Again, 40% of our landfill waste comes from the built environment. Specific to this region in Cook County, we have one remaining landfill and roughly 7 years of remaining capacity. And more importantly, there's a Illinois ban that impacts Cook County and limits our ability to just build another landfill. So the association with that is a capacity issue, but then it also translates cost. Cost in transportation, cost in tipping fees. And what this slide indicates is the trends that we've seen since 1985 with the landfill tipping fees across the nation. Specific to the Midwest and specific to municipal solid waste, we've seen a little more closely here that trend line continuing to go up. And so again, the correlation here is as landfill capacities go down, costs go up. So not only in gas, but also in tipping fees, the cost of doing business, the cost of transportation in general, and the cost of disposal are all going up. This slide indicates kind of a driver of C&D diversion in the form of the foreclosure market. These foreclosed vacant units, often nuisance properties, represent enormous potential for the C&D industry. Obviously, they are, again, nuisance properties in many instances, problematic for many communities, but specific to this industry, and through the lens that we're speaking today, this represents enormous potential in that building stock. I'll specifically point out some areas of high concentration. This data is from 2010 along the West Coast. Obviously, they were hit hard. The state of Florida, the Midwest, the Upper East. Major metropolitan areas where we're seeing very high concentrations of foreclosed units. And again, within that opportunity, there's secondary market opportunity for that building material. Just to point out, you guys did a tour earlier this morning of the Rebuilding Exchange. A number of your traditional and non-traditional specialty items all are found in these homes: appliances, cabinetry, floorware, hardware, etc. All have value. And tapping into secondary use and new market opportunities for this value creates new revenue streams, which is important. Here's just a snapshot of the composition of Cook County housing. This breaks down what the housing stock for the entire county looks like based on generation. So, when that unit was built. You can see here that the largest portion of this pie comes from units that were built 1939 or earlier. We talk about the quality of how homes are built today versus the workmanship that went into building homes in generations prior. And it's an obvious correlation. In those older homes, you often find more quality material, better workmanship, which translates to more solid structures. And as those units come down, that material continues to have value that can then go into another home or be upcycled in some other form or fashion. Not to take anything away from later generations, those homes and that material also has value, but just wanting to point out where the highest concentrations of homes in Cook County are based on the generations that they were built. So what are we seeing? The trends in C&D diversion. Across the nation, and we can kind of keep that national snapshot of foreclosed units in mind. Across the nation, you're seeing trends in C&D diversion at the municipal level, at the county level, the local level here. I'll start kind of at the macro level and take a look at some prominent ordinances. We point to two here in California as well as one in Colorado. Two very proactive, very aggressive states around sustainability. And what we're seeing is that there is a trend in eligible projects, projects that have been permitted. Those would include residential and commercial. And each of these projects within their respective ordinances have requirements in terms of recycling C&D debris, both inert and traditional C&D debris, requiring contractors, homeowners, builders to hit certain milestones in terms of the amounts that they're recycling. Sort of 50 to 75% is the standard that we're seeing. We're seeing that areas are requiring that material that is being deconstructed and reused or recycled to be taken to a certified diversion facility. And then lastly, really holding contractors accountable, if you will, by incorporating penalties and fines. And sometimes that is a small fine or a scalable fine based on percentage points not achieved, but then also a little bit more stringent in terms of judicial review and possibly jail time. At the county level, we're seeing it as well. Orange County, North Carolina, King County, Washington, again, proactive, very aggressive areas taking C&D diversion to the next level, really by incorporating county-wide ordinances that really do the same thing, require permitted construction and demolition projects to meet certain milestones. Interesting here, we see the correlation between the solid waste management divisions and the encouragement of the use of authorized C&D haulers. At the county level, a little bit more of a broader perspective, where we're kind of incorporating some of the other elements of the industry and the system to make sure that the C&D diversion is actually taking place and the management of it is being done responsibly. Locally, we've seen the village of Northbrook and the city of Chicago especially sort of really shine in terms of being a local trendsetter or trailblazer, if you will, to C&D diversion ordinances. Again, eligible projects, both new construction, renovation, as well as demolition, requiring certain percentage points for recycling, and then the implementation of a fine and penalty system, where in both instances, percentage points below whatever that requirement is. In Chicago, it's 50%. In Northbrook, it's 75%. Tacking on a $1,000 fine per percentage point not met. So really, again, designed to create accountability, if you will, within the industry. It's not just the creation of the ordinance itself, but then it's also incorporating resources that make it easier for contractors to actually meet that. And in the city of Chicago, we highlight here a green building permit process that is very transparent, is very straightforward, and it walks contractors through what the process of securing a green permit is, the types of projects based on their feasibility and their benefit tiers, and then incentivizing the contractors to actually pursue that. So for the city of Chicago, depending on the project, there's an opportunity here to realize benefits in the form of a partial fee waiver and or an expedited permit. So, you know, these projects that are incorporating sustainability, inclusive of C&D diversion, are getting faster turnaround and actually are saving you money. In addition to that, again, City of Chicago has created a best management practice that also provides resources to contractors around inventory of material, local recyclers that are recommended, a number of benefits, you know, creating mechanisms for safe and secure storage on site for projects that take multiple days. So again, resources sort of complementing the ordinance, if you will, to kind of balance it out and make it not only a transparent and straightforward process, but one that that provides you assistance when needed and where. So before I turn it over to Brian to talk about the ordinance, I just kind of wanted to give you a snapshot of the activity that Cook County has been sort of pursuing around C&D diversion, starting with the original solid waste plan, which was then updated in 2012. Cook County has been great and has empowered the Delta Institute to do supportive research around C&D material and reuse, and I've included some of that information on this timeline as well to kind of indicate the amount of effort that has gone into both designing the ordinance, drafting the ordinance, and also encouraging public review before the ordinance actually went public. So to get into the ordinance, I'll now turn it over to Brian.
One thing that I do want to point out is the amount of time and thought and research that went into into our ordinance. You know, our initial waste plan, solid waste plan, was adopted in the early to mid '90s, and since then we've we've updated it and kind of altered it and, you know, tried to build upon it and improve it. So right here around 2011, we started a deconstruction training program. We had market analysis also conducted in that year on how we can do things related, how we can try and help alter the industry to make it a little bit more sustainable. And why are we thinking to make it a little bit more sustainable is because recycling rates statewide have been dropping in a number of different, for a number of different reasons. One of them is because the population has grown quite a bit. And specifically in certain parts of Cook County. So the state has a mandate of 25% recycling across the board, where they'd like to see all materials recycled at a rate of about 25%. Particularly in Cook County, we're falling short across the board. That's not just contractors, that's everyone in general. So particularly in the south and western suburbs, we're well below those rates. In the northern suburbs, they're a little bit higher, but they're still beneath those rates as well. So what we were trying to do is be a little bit more proactive as a county, also taking into consideration that right now there's only one open landfill within Cook County. That's the one out on the Bishop Ford, and it's, you know, depending on who you talk to and what day of the week it is, they may tell you that there's upwards of 2 to 5 years of capacity remaining in that particular landfill. So going forward, that means that you as the contractors will pay greater fees to have your materials disposed. So either you'll pay double, twice as many handling fees because you'll have to take it to a transfer station, and from the transfer station it'll be taken to a permanent landfill, or you'll have to pay higher fees to transport it to a landfill yourself. So we're trying to take those things into consideration, and also be a little bit more proactive, you know, and trying to spur the economy. There's a lot of resources that are available in those materials that are in the demolition debris I know a lot of the companies here have been active for a number of years and have been recycling materials for a long time. One of the things that we want to try and discuss and introduce you to is the concept of reuse as well. It's one thing to recycle a material, but that still takes time. That still takes a bit of time and energy in manufacturing to recycle that material. What we want to try and do is push reusing that material as well, because if you take that material and reuse it somewhere else, it still has a value in the market overall. So, with that being said, I wanted to just kind of talk about the ordinance itself. So, the ordinance it's part of our overall. It's part of the Cook County's overall goal of one day becoming a zero waste county. Obviously, we're not going to achieve that goal tomorrow, but it is part of our solid waste plan and one of the top priorities, as Sean mentioned, that 40% of the materials that are being disposed of in the landfill come from demolition projects and renovation projects. And a lot of people say that, well, why does it matter if it's a renovation project? If it's a renovation project, by our ordinance, if you're removing a structural member or an exterior wall, you have to obtain a Cook County permit and go through all the proper steps. So, with that in mind, the goal of this ordinance is to reduce the overall amount of C and D material going into that's being generated. We want to try and prevent improper disposal of C and D material within Cook County. Some of you guys have been in this field for a number of years. Mr. Mandel, Bert, you guys have been doing this for quite a few years, and I know you may have lost a job or two due to a company being somewhat unscrupulous in how they're disposing of their waste. So maybe fly dumping, and that's something that impacts all of us, from the contractors to the municipalities to the residents of an area as well. And so that's something that with us trying to make sure, and trying to enforce and regulate the way that you're handling these materials, how you're transporting them, we want to make sure that the playing field is level for all of the contractors. Some of you guys may have lost a bid because of someone's bid was a little bit lower than you because they weren't necessarily handling their materials or disposing of them in a proper manner. Our goal is to try and discontinue that. So, and the other goal of this ordinance is to recover materials that have a value so that they can be reintroduced into the market overall. There's a lot of materials that go into landfills: bricks, wood, vanities, tubs, things of that nature, that could actually have a value, that do have a value in the market. There's a lot of I get calls all the time in my office with people saying, "Oh, it's just an old house from the 1920s and 1930s." A lot of those fixtures and those materials are fashionable again. And my home was built in the 1920s, and I love it. There's a lot of old fixtures that I wouldn't have been able to get in them if I had purchased a home that was built in the 1990s. So a lot of those materials do have a strong value. So the way that the ordinance works is it has three components that I really want to focus on before I really delve into it. Obtaining a permit is essentially the same. You still have all of the same paperwork that you have to submit. You still have to provide the same environmental reports. The fees have changed slightly, and we can, all that information has been disseminated to you, and it's on our website. Please Google Cook County Department of Environmental Control. It'll pop right up there. But the requirements are a little bit different. So the most important aspect of the ordinance to me is the diversion requirement. Now, the diversion requirement for residential structures is 70% diversion of materials from a landfill. And included in that is 5% reuse. We'll have people discussing how you can meet that 5% a little bit further in the workshop, but it's really simple. We actually have during the market analysis, we obtained information from the city of Chicago, which was one of the first municipalities in the region to have a recycling requirement. Their recycling requirement is 50%. And based on the data that they have, not only have the contractors been meeting it, but they've been exceeding it at the rate of about 80 to 85%. So, you know, although our ordinance is a little bit more stringent than theirs, it's still something that, you know, it's still very capable of, it's something that's very capable for contractors to meet. And at this point, since the ordinance was introduced in November 21st of last year, of 2012, our recycling rates are about 79% overall on all required projects. So one thing I want to specify is that residential structures are considered structures of 4 units or less. If it's 5 units or more, it then triggers it becomes commercial structure. So our commercial structures are obviously 5 units, or apartment complexes of 5 units or more, or commercial facilities, warehouses, and then industrial facilities. And that's only subject to the 70% recycling requirement. Now you can reuse those materials as well. Bricks obviously can be reused. Some of the materials from office spaces can be reused as well. But that's, you know, but all we're requiring is 70% recycling on those structures. There are penalties and fines if you don't report your information properly, if you don't report the information at all. But then there's also ways that you can communicate with us, and if you know, for instance, if there's a fire damaged facility and you can't meet that facility, if you can't meet that requirement, just document it and submit a waiver request, and then you would not necessarily have to meet the requirements. So, you know, ultimately, it's the goal here is for you to work with us, communicate to us what your situation is, what your project is, and we can, you know, we'll work with you to try and help you reach your goals. So, the second aspect of the ordinance is the waste recycling plan. So the plan has to be submitted up front. So that's maybe the only alteration to that's maybe the only alteration at this point to the submittal package. So we wanted to try and make it as easy for you as possible. I know some of us aren't as tech savvy as others, but we've been trying to encourage everyone to use is this tool called the Green Halo system. It's a tool that's completely free to the contractors and it's free to the municipalities to use. You can provide you can enter your company on the Green Halo system and enter your project specifications, and based on the location of your project and the materials that you'll be recycling and or reusing at your site, they'll help you plan out your recycling plan or your waste diversion plan. For instance, if you have gypsum at a facility that you want to get rid of, or instead of disposing of it and putting it in a landfill, they have a list of recycling facilities for gypsum. They have very hard to recycle materials. They have recyclers for carpet. So and I know that's something that's relatively difficult to recycle at times. They have a list of facilities and companies that you can contact, and they'll help work that they can point you in the direction of. And they also list those facilities by vicinity of your location. So if you're in Melrose Park, instead of having to take the material all the way out to Joliet, they'll point you to someone very close to Melrose Park. One thing I do want to point out about this particular situation, some of you in the audience may know Gary Langus from Langus Corporation. He was actually the very first person to submit a recycling plan for Cook County. During the open comment period when we were introducing this ordinance, Gary called me personally and told me that he was a little concerned about using the online tool. And he actually said that he was hoping that we could just have a paper tool that he could complete by hand and fax over to the office. And Gary's an old school guy, probably he's got kids my age, and he's not really tech savvy, but he went on and entered this project himself. And you know, shortly after it was completed, he called me up and talked about how simple and easy it was for him to use, and how it actually helped make the project a little bit more efficient for him. He actually indicated that he found facilities that he wasn't aware of that were much closer to his site, so he actually wound up making a little bit more money on this project than he anticipated. So that's the type of things that we're hoping the contractors will find using the Green Halo system. On our website, we also have a list of recycling facilities, and you know, we weren't just trying to impose stringent regulations. We were actually trying to provide resources to the contractors as well. There's a number of people in the audience where I've offered to come out and discuss different aspects of the ordinance and assist you in, you know, developing your recycling plans so that you can get accustomed to it and, you know, make it a little bit easier for you. So, but this is a sample recycling plan. Instead of having a lot of paperwork that you would have to copy, collate, fax, mail, so on and so forth, it's all online. It's, you know, here's the nuts and bolts. This was his planned diversion rate. It was about 92%, and actually overall he exceeded that. He exceeded the planned diversion rate at about 97.5%. He was able to recycle more materials than he expected, and he actually, once again, was a little bit more efficient in doing it because he found facilities that were much closer to his project location. And if you need to have a paper copy of it, we have for instance, we mentioned the village of Northbrook. They need documentation because they have a recycling requirement as well. So this would suffice, the information here would suffice to send to the village of Northbrook. You can, if you see the tab here, I apologize, there's a tab with the printer. You can just click on that icon and it'll print the report, or you can make a PDF version of it and email it to your contact at the various municipalities. Once again, and depending on what kind of data you want, you know, if you're tracking ferrous materials versus non-ferrous materials, if you're tracking copper, if you're tracking wood, so on and so forth, they do have sections for all of that. And for the companies here that do your environmental engineering, your environmental remediation, they also have options where you can track your environmental projects as well. You can track the amount of hazardous waste that you may be shipping, or how many of you perform asbestos abatement. And we all know you have to hold those manifests for, 30 to 40 years. The cradle to grave shipping. How many file cabinets do you have in your office? How much money are you spending on storage space? It can all be stored online. It can all be tracked online using the Green Halo system. So that's some of the uses of the recycling, of developing the recycling plan. Ultimately, the goal behind that is to try and for you to stage your projects in a responsible manner. I know I'm not speaking to any of the guys in the room. You guys are doing you line your projects up in a very responsible manner, and we don't have to tell you how to do it. But for the some of the newer folks in the industry may not necessarily realize just how difficult a demolition project is. A lot of people think, oh, it's a building, I'm gonna take this backhoe or this bulldozer and knock it over and then get it out of here. There's a lot more planning that goes into it, and ultimately what we want is for the contractors to think about it in a more responsible manner. Think about this demolition debris not as waste, not as trash, but think of it as a resource. You know, there's a huge development, there's a huge market obviously for metals. There's a big market for brick, crushing concrete and using that as backfill. There's a market for asphalt, but there's also a market for lumber. There's also a market for, as I mentioned earlier, tubs and things of that nature that can be reused that can be sold, so on and so forth. So, you know, we're just trying to get you to think a little bit further about how you can, other opportunities to make money and continue to keep materials out of landfills. So, the third aspect of the recycling of the 3D ordinance, the demolition debris diversion ordinance, is the submittal of the recycling report. So at the tail end of your project, after you've recycled your materials or reused your materials, you've sent them to whatever location, facility that for reuse and recycling, they'll submit documentation to you. Instead of you having to, once again, copy all that documentation, ship it to my office, and I have to sit and review it to ensure that you've met those requirements, you can enter that information on the Green Halo system, and they'll do that for you. They'll track the amount of waste that you've diverted from landfills and make sure that you've met those requirements. All I have to do is log on, review your reports. So they're doing the calculations for you. They're kind of trying to take some of that time and effort out of your hands and then out of my hands as well. So, once again, it's just a resource that we're trying to put forth to make things a little bit more efficient for you, and also make it a little bit more efficient for us, so that we can try and develop processes that are a little bit more contractor friendly. So, our overall role still has not changed. Once again, the application and submission processes remain the same. The site visit will still come out and visit your projects to ensure all environmental regulations all pertinent environmental regulations are being followed. If you have questions, you can contact me at that time, or you can contact my field inspectors. We're not just there to try and enforce regulations. We're also there to help you comply with regulations. If you do have a question about something that's going on, my inspectors are there as a resource. I'm maybe in the office for some of you as a resource. I'm looking at you, Bert. I'm not. But and if there's other issues, please feel free to contact us directly. We're here to work with you as a resource. That's the overall goal of this ordinance. It's not to enforce and impose more regulations, but it's ultimately to try and work with the contractors and provide resources to you and tools that you can be a little bit more efficient, be a little bit more sustainable. As I mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, we did market analysis on several homes in suburban Cook County during 2012, and this is a graphic about some of what we found. 6 of those homes were in Park Forest, 2 of them were in Evanston. Something that's really interesting about the homes in Park Forest was that they were actually vacant for about 6 or 7 years, if I remember properly. And one thing about those homes is that typically if a home sits vacant, it's subject to vandalism, scavenging. So there really weren't any metals available in those homes, but we still, during the market analysis, we still were able to exceed the 70% recycling goal by about 18%. But we also found that there were 8% reusable materials in those homes, so only 4% of the debris that was generated during those projects were actually disposed of. And that, obviously, once again, that's not what we're not saying that that's what you have to do. We'd love to see it, but the requirements are 70%, and it's eminently doable, if you really put forth a little thought into your project. So just a little graphic again about the particular homes that we used. Once again, the green portion is the recycled material. The bluish section is the reused materials, and the reused materials consisted of lumber, your toiletries, your tubs, things of that nature. Obviously, the homes in Evanston on the far left end had higher rates, but those homes did not lay vacant as long, and they're slightly larger homes by square footage. In closing out, I just want to reiterate the Green Halo system is a tool that we're really trying to push. As part of our overall goal, again, is to become a zero waste county. And all the paperwork, the faxes, and paperwork in triplicate that's being sent over back and forth, the postage that your the envelopes that your postage is packed in. You know, we can try. The overall goal is to try and move away from that and think about it. You know, Anna, when you make a copy of of these manifests and they're 200 sheets, you know, how much does it cost for you to send that package of posters over to the office? You know, I've received packages with 200 or 300 sheets of paper that, I mean, it was an entire ream of paper that costs about $15. And then how much time and materials are you spending to copy and collate that information as well? You know, if we can use the Green Halo system, or if we can send that information electronically, it'll make things a lot faster for you and a lot faster for us as well, so that, you know, I can get back to the business of reviewing and processing your permits in a more efficient manner, right?
Representative from Green Halo Systems with us. Dean, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have Dean in the room with us physically, but he's here to walk us through the Green Halo system, some additional slides, and he's also available to answer any questions you all may have regarding the use of the system. So, Dean, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. As a lot of you may heard in the earlier part of the session, the requirement of recycling and diversion of construction debris from job sites is going to become part of your everyday business, essentially part of your tool belt. And reporting of this type of material and this type of recycling activity and documenting all that is going to be very important to comply with all the city ordinances and county ordinances and state ordinances that are coming down the pipeline. What I'm going to talk to you about today is a tool called Green Halo that helps make all this stuff easy. The Green Halo is in 450 cities across the country right now. It's got over 18,000 contractors using it. It's a very easy system to use, and it allows you to do all the recycling reporting, tracking, and compliance with diversion requirements that you'll need for your construction project. Next slide. What is Green Halo? Green Halo is an online waste management tool that streamlines the tracking of waste and recycling from construction projects. Basically, we're a garbage accounting system. A lot of people call it QuickBooks for garbage. We track pretty much all your waste, salvage, and recycling, put it into a nice format so you can see all the side charts, trends, and all the other information, make sure you're in compliance, and take that information and report it to whatever entity you need to. Next slide. Why do I need Green Halo? Well, as we stated, cities, counties, and states across the country are requiring recycling of construction debris, and Green Halo is a tool that makes that really easy. A lot of cities are holding back final inspection, are taking deposits and other forms of incentives, so to speak, that require contractors to comply with these recycling requirements. And having Green Halo and being able to report your information at the end of the project helps expedite the return of these deposits, final inspection, and so on. Next slide. What does Green Halo do? Well, Green Halo is really easy to use. It's basically a system that allows you to create waste management plans. And when you create a waste management plan, all we're basically saying here is tell us what you're going to do with the waste and debris coming off your job site. The system helps you locate the nearest recycling facilities for the individual materials that you identify that's coming off the job site. Usually it finds the ones that are closest to your project, therefore cutting down on the fuel requirements and reducing the carbon footprint impact of the project. Next, the system allows you to upload recycling tickets to the system. So all your recycling data, recycling receipts, and so on are uploaded to the system, and the system does an accounting to determine whether the project meets the recycling requirements of the jurisdiction you're doing business in. A lot of contractors these days are requiring their subcontractors to load the data for them before they release payment. There's a lot of different ways you can do this, and you can also connect with the recycling facilities themselves. The system monitors the recycling compliance and lets you know if the project is falling below requirements. Once your project is completed, all you have to do is hit report directly to the city or county with one button, and it automatically transmits all the data to the county and city, so you don't have to drive down there with a stack of tickets and wait for them to review them and do all this other stuff. So it saves you a lot of time and money. Next slide. Is Green Hill easy to use? Absolutely. It's just as easy as creating an account on any other website. You create your account information, you put in your project information, you identify the materials you have coming off the job site, the system locates the recycling facilities for you, you enter your salvage, recycling, and disposal data, and when you're done, you submit the report to the city. A lot of contractors usually, I think, we're down to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds to create a waste management plan. And if you don't have a computer, you can call it in. This is what we call a dial plan. And you call in our toll-free number, and they'll automatically create the waste management plan for you on the phone. Next slide. Benefit. System saves you time and money. And it helps maximize the profitability from recycling and salvage. Once you recover some of these materials that you have coming off the job site, whether it be from salvage or simply source separating materials for the purpose of recycling, there is a huge secondary market out there. It may not be as developed in your area right now as it will be soon, but in other parts of the country, there's a huge secondary market looking for all the materials that you guys are going to be pulling off the job site. And we've seen stuff getting trucked from one end of the country to the other just because they need that specific type of material. Old lumber, old brick, architectural steel itself, all kinds of things that you may normally dispose of or take to the transfer station can now be salvaged and put into the system, and you can get money back for it. The next thing is that the system generates comprehensive reports and statistics. So you can easily see and pull up a construction project outline of what the statistics and the trends are for the recycling of this project. You could also see what your entire company is doing as a whole. A lot of contractors provide this information to their clients as a report, but a lot of them are also using this information as a marketing tool to get more business. So when they meet with new clients, they say, look, we have an online waste tracking system that we use that shows how much recycling we're doing. And when you're dealing with a lot of these larger scale projects or more of these corporate clients and state and city and county clients, they're requiring some type of waste management plan and proof of that recycling taking place. And this allows you to do that. It reduces staff time requirements by not having to sit there and deal with all the paperwork that's involved with it. You can have the subcontractors again upload it, or the recycling facility upload directly to the system for you. So you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is set it up. And the whole system is available through a mobile device. Anytime, anywhere access. A lot of contractors pull this information up on their iPhone, Droid, tablet, whatever it might be, or your laptop or desktop. And you can easily see what's happening with your project at any time and whether all your foreman and your subcontractors are complying with the project themselves. Next step. The whole point of this thing is that we give you accurate reports and pie charts and trends that you can easily pull up and see. You could pull reports based on the types of projects that you're doing, the types of industry that you're doing them in, types of buildings, what materials are coming off the job site, what facilities are being used the most, what type of hauling methods are they using, and so on. So, like we said, we're basically an accounting system for waste, and we help provide you with all this information. It's so easy to use, and most of the people just love using it because it really gives you an outline that's and a good picture as to what your company is doing and what the project itself is doing. And these are just a sample of some of the charts that are on there. But there's some in-depth charts. They're interactive, so you can click on different time slices and it shows you different trends and so on. It's a really neat system to look at if you're doing reports and so on. What does it cost? Well, Green Hill is absolutely free. The system to do exactly what we just talked about is absolutely free to contractors. You don't have to pay anything. All you have to do is create your account. And if you don't have a computer, you can do all this stuff by phone. It's really easy to use, and it allows contractors to kind of get to the next level of reporting and tracking of waste that they've never had before. A tool like this costs us working to develop, but we make it available for you guys for free. You might get a couple little banner advertising ads that might pop up, but other than that, the whole system is completely free for you to use. If you want to learn more about it, we're at the last slide. Basically, we're willing to provide complete private web meetings with you to take you through the whole system. We'll set up your account. We'll get the whole thing configured for you. We'll even upload your project for you so that everything you have going on right now can be uploaded to the system and be current so that everything goes online. And if you sign up in the next couple days and you want to set up a web meeting, you get a $5 Starbucks gift card just for going through the meeting. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll do the answer for you.
Dean, what's the financial model? Who actually pays for this? The disposal contractor, or the tipping company, or who?
Well, actually, we have we designed the system for companies. Our business model is basically we make money off advertising. So similar to like your email or Yahoo email, where you see some banner ads while you're doing it, they provide a free service, and we get some banner advertising coming in. That's one of them. But we actually design systems like this for large companies, like big construction companies, Fortune 500 companies that want to be able to track recycling not only from their construction projects, but also their buildings, their campuses, and that kind of thing. And that's where we make our money on the design side and building these systems for companies. But we happen to build a generic system for everybody to use, and that's what this is.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
All right, Dean, thank you very much. I'll leave your contact information up. I think most of the people in the room have either jotted it down or will note that, and we'll encourage them to contact you for that one-on-one.
No problem.